What's up, guys? Today we're going to be reacting to Anthony Fantano's review of Eminem's Music to be Murdered by Side B. Now, I realize this is probably a random one to select of all the poor Eminem reviews he's given. I just feel like this is one that I wanted to do because I disagree with it very heavily, and I just think I have a good reason for it. I haven't actually seen this in a while, but I just recall watching it and feeling the things I felt. So I wanted to kind of meet in the middle here and see what he's got going on. Forgot I had to do that. Nobody will probably notice, I'm sure. Anyway, let's get right into it.
Hi, everyone. Anthony Fan Blam Blim Blam Blim Blim Blow here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new deluxe edition of Eminem's Music to be Murdered by Side B, the B-side thing.
You can definitely tell when he's gonna give a bad review, just based off of the energy that he's bringing. I mean, before this, you could still just tell that he's not happy. Nothing good is going to come once you feel that energy from Anthony, and especially if you like the project prior to listening to his review, you're extra mad.
I'm so sick and tired of this trend. An artist releases a record, and then within days, in this case like a year, they drop a deluxe edition of the record that's essentially an entire album on top of the album.
I do agree with that, actually. I think that is kind of annoying. I just don't really see the point in that. You know, complete your project and then make a second project. Like, if you didn't call this the Side B Deluxe Edition, or you just called it Side B and didn't have it be Deluxe Edition, and it was just basically Music to be Murdered by 2, probably would have been better off. It would have been more well received from everybody. Instead, I think this is more something for the fans to appreciate. I agree with you there, Anthony.
In the abstract, this sort of thing isn't completely unorthodox. Lots of records over the years have received deluxe releases that expand quite a bit upon the original track list. But usually this privilege has been reserved for albums that have withstood the test of time, kind of gained classic status. But
I agree with that too. If you are going to be releasing a deluxe version, do it 10 years later and give us, just a handful of more from that era. Don't just slap extra stuff on. So yeah, I agree with that. I completely agree.
Now, thanks to the streaming era, any artist can just add hours of material to a totally mediocre record that if you took their entire discography, it wouldn't even rank in the top 3 of all of their releases. And what's up with titling this thing Side B? As if the bulk of the material here is either from the original Music to be Murdered by sessions or creative headspace, when that couldn't possibly be the case considering the recency of the references in many bars on this project. Eminem wasn't dropping COVID lyrics in 2020.
I agree. That's fair. If you're basically kind of just what I said, that if you're going to be releasing it, it should be from the same era. It's close enough in time that when you look back, they are the same era, especially with COVID being such a defining line. The original Music to be Murdered by came out in early 2020, and then the Side B came out in late 2020, where we had established COVID and everything. So that's a fair point. I agree.
For the most part, here it just sounds like Eminem, legendary rapper Eminem, who needs no introduction at this point, is just recording a batch of songs that are somewhat in the same vein, but just far worse than most of the material on the original record, and just tagging it on. Listening through this thing, it's just so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. He should have taken 3-4 tracks from this thing tops, made them bonus tracks, and called it a day.
I disagree. There was certainly more than 3 or 4 tracks that were considered good from the Side B. I just glanced back over the track list. There's at least 7 songs, in my opinion, that are absolute bangers that I wouldn't want to be missing from his catalog. So that was an understatement. But I guess I disagree with you there, Anthony.
I don't even want to go over this thing. It's like trying to pick through a bunch of rotten produce with flies swarming all around it, and I have to take a bite of it to tell you guys how it tastes.
That was harsh. That's funny. That's really funny, but that's harsh.
There's Black Magic, another painfully overproduced Skylar Grey track with a glitzy beat, overwrought flows.
No, that song is great, and anything with Skylar Grey and Eminem is usually a banger. Skylar Grey has a great vocal, and it just works really well. They've done so many great things over the years, so as soon as I saw Skylar Grey, I was amped.
And lovesick bars that are corny, even by Eminem standards. She cheats and I catch her like the common cold.
I understand what you're saying, but from today's standards, that's still a fair simile. Like, I'm sorry, I think that Eminem, he states that too, that he gets compared to himself only, because he does. He can have all these great lyrical moments throughout his career, but now that he is kind of just making some silly things, because people say, oh, all you can do is rap fast, but then he slows it down and just makes silly punchlines, and then all you guys can say is that it's dumb. Okay, but we can sit here and say, I don't even want to get an example because I'm just gonna get hate for it, but there's some stupid ass music out there that nobody questions the lyrical ability at all.
The similes on this thing are painful. We're an unlikely pair, like two different Nike Airs, and then he goes on to say that he and this woman are soulmates. Get it?
I think that's funny, though. I think it's a funny little nod. I mean, why not, dude? Again, there's so much stupid lyrics out there in hip-hop today. We're really saying that this is just horrible. Sorry, it's corny, but it's not like horrible.
Soul of a shoe. And of course, like most women he shares feelings for in his music on this track, there is a point where it's time to die. Yeah, there's just like a bunch of stabbing sound effects and knives and screaming, but somehow the sudden...
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of that on this album. That's kind of Eminem's thing, though. And when you have years and years of people saying, we want the old Eminem back, and then he gives it to you and you're gonna mock it? I mean, okay.
Imagine Dragons reference worked into a bar about pulling this woman's hair is more offensive to my tastes.
That's funny. It's offensive for sure, but it is funny.
Then there's Alfred's theme, whose instrumental literally just features a sample of the Alfred Hitchcock theme. In many respects, this track almost feels like classic Eminem, very animated, zany energy, lots of Foley sound effects, some cunning lines here and there, one about how he still gets the bag even when he puts garbage out. At least he's self-aware about it. But
that's funny. I like that Anthony likes Alfred's theme here. I really didn't think he would. I think it's cool the way that Eminem used that song. I think it's cool what he did on that song. It is more old Eminem and it is more zany like that. So I'm surprised that Anthony likes it as much as he does, but I'm glad he does.
But that being said, the sample barely feels in sync with the stiff-ass drums on this track. Plus, there's no shortage of corny bars, too.
I shouldn't have spoke yet. Oh my god. I mean, it's okay. First of all, you can have a different opinion than me, but also it's fair to, kind of weigh out the good and the bad as you're reviewing.
About that capital like a proper noun. Every line's obscene. The pervertedest mind got the dirtiest rhymes stocked. That's why there's parental advising every time I drop.
Bars, dude. Bars.
When will it end? Despite my complaints about this track, it probably would have been fine in the original track listing of Music to be Murdered by, I guess. But then from here, there's the incredibly tedious Tone Deaf.
I don't know how you're going to say, I guess, after... I mean, you did shit on it, but you did say that you liked it at first, so... I don't think that's much of a guess. It's a good song, and it definitely could have been on the original Music to be Murdered by and fit right in.
Where Eminem kicks the track off saying he has an ear infection and he CUNT figured out. Oh, and the bars on this one.
I agree. That part's really difficult. As soon as he starts that, yeah, it's hard to hear that sometimes.
They're so evil, so edgy. Eminem can't be tamed.
But yet he literally shrunk at the fallout on that homophobic Tyler, the Creator bar how many years back now. Not that I'm encouraging Eminem to engage in more callous behavior on his records or anything, but I feel like given the past instances of him showing himself to, I don't know, care about others, be sympathetic, that sort of thing, it's a little inauthentic at this point for him to constantly paint himself as just being such a bad boy.
I agree with you there, Anthony. I feel like if you're going to do it, you should, fully send it and never apologize, never back down, and die on that hill. Or don't, or just don't be like that. You can't spend your time saying offensive things and then apologizing for those things and then continue to act like you just don't give a fuck. I mean, you can't have it both ways.
The track Book of Rhymes is sort of a hilarious concept because it's Eminem portraying himself as just emptying the rhyme book. This is the stuff I've had locked in the vault for a while now, guys. Here we go. Haven't used all the tricks I have, so like my balls in my bag, get a little testy when I'm mad. Yeah, Eminem was really just like hunkering down on those balls and testes bars.
I agree with that, I guess. That, you can't name the song Book of Rhymes and then come with some, not your best shit for sure. Like, to be fair, the lines he was reading are actually from the hook or pre-hook or whatever you want to call it. So it's not like that's, the full masterpiece of the song that he was trying to portray here. But I get what you're saying, Anthony.
For a while. God, there's so many poo-poo and pee-pee bars all over this thing. Like that one bar where he's talking about peeing on someone's head like a Philly hat. Pee on the head. I guess I like that on the track the flows are tight and Eminem continues to adapt to more, trap aesthetics on the instrumental side. A few of the beat changes are cool, but when it comes to the content, it's not it. The song Favorite Bitch is...
That's fair. A fair assessment of your own, I guess, through the album. Eminem really doesn't stick to a fluid idea, and not that he ever really has. So I don't understand where that expectation necessarily has come from. Go back to his first 3 albums. Most of the bars are zany, crazy, all over the place, with a handful of songs that come through that have a grander point to it. And that's certainly the same for Music to be Murdered by. So it's not like Eminem, writes a book in every song, and he never has. So
is Eminem essentially rapping about the first love, the most major passion in his life, hip-hop, likening it to a woman, and if it's a woman and Eminem has feelings for that woman, be she figurative or otherwise, you know what that means, time to die. Because yes, after some...
Yeah, he does that a lot. But in that song he is talking about hip-hop as if she's a woman and then saying she has to die because she's ran through or whatever because of all the other rappers. Time to die.
Weird bars about how this love of his is like a slut now, and she's getting felt up by other guys. Simile check. I'm just trolling you pussies, but I'm like a stroller, because you'll see just how I roll if you push me. If you want to portray yourself as tough, step 1, don't liken yourself to a thing that you push babies around in. But
yeah. That's funny, though. That's a funny bar.
Yes, on this track, we eventually do reach a point where he's telling music, shut up, bitch. I'll kill you, bitch. Don't you dare leave, bitch. I'll put 2 in your head, bitch. Plus, the narrative...
As much as you want to be, mad at him when he just shit talks an album like this, he's really funny. W. Anthony.
Of the track is kind of confusing. He seems to paint as glorious the moment in time where he helped blow up the career of Curtis or 50 Cent, which, if you're portraying yourself as this, substance over everything, lyricism over everything, artistry over everything type of guy, What was that? 50 Cent helped like cheapen, commercialize, and commodify the hip hop genre just about as much as anybody else could or did. I mean,
I disagree with that. I think that he definitely had an interesting style that was more party, but 50 could definitely rap, and he definitely came with a great lyrical ability. I don't think he personally would have assisted in the commercialization of rap like that. I think maybe his influence over time, maybe, but I don't think I agree with what you're saying.
of course, he wasn't like the only example. You have all of the executives, all of the labels, dudes like Jay-Z, who, wasn't just a businessman, but a businessman. So
Thank you for mentioning Jay-Z there, actually. I agree with your point there now.
I guess all I'm saying here is like Eminem was clearly a part of and complicit in the cheapening of hip hop as an art form, the commercialization of hip hop as an art form. And when, you're opening the door for the success of someone like 50 Cent, where do you think things are going to go from there? If this wasn't enough,
I disagree. I think the only thing that you could say that Eminem added to the commercialization is just because he was so popular.
following track with
But other than that, no, I don't think Eminem added to the commercialization of hip hop any more than any other rapper has done. And I don't think 50 Cent was, making that worse necessarily by any means.
Dr. Dre, Guns Blazing, is an accusatory song where, it's like Em and Dre just like going at these two women that they hate. It's really just like too much at this point. It's too fucking much. Then the track Nat is packed with.
I guess I don't understand why you dislike that song. I think it was nice to see Dr. Dre back rapping, so I don't know. It's nothing so different than the content that Eminem has already done, you know what I mean? Like he's always maintained this style of murderous rage. It's how he vents his feelings, and he's always done that.
With painfully corny and boring COVID bars, even some weird bat sound effects. And then Jesus, the weird
Why does everyone hate COVID bars? Why can't we rap about what happened in peace or history and it did some damage on our country? That's to be expected.
child killing bars and like that threatening reference to Mike Pence that isn't a reference to Mike Pence, but it is a reference to Mike Pence. Like,
that's funny.
the beat and flow switches on this song in the second half are pretty much the track's only saving grace. Then Higher almost sounds like Eminem's own version of an inspirational, like, college dropout Kanye hit with the grand chorus vocals and everything. It's worth debating whether or not he actually pulls the sound and style off well, but I do think this manages to be one of the better tracks, at least in this track list. Simile check.
I'm glad he likes the song and then goes immediately into shit talking. Oh, Anthony, I think that you secretly love this album. I think that you secretly really, really appreciate the way that Eminem really took himself and everything that people love about him and put him right in the middle of these modern beats, modern hooks, and really took it on by the nose. Like, I think that this is shockingly good when you think about the course of Eminem's career here. I think that most people don't want to admit that Music to Be Murdered By is a pretty damn good album.
Though, but I'm up like your feet in a recliner, and I think I'm about to go out on a limb like a tree climber. Not only a weird place to go with the rest of the verse in context still,
Sorry, I dropped my shit, but yes, that was a corny bar.
but what an oddly redundant simile, even with the reference to feet and legs.
Agreed.
Going out on a limb like a tree climber. I mean, when people think of going out on a limb, a tree is typically in mind. No need to remind us of climbing a tree in the process of saying you're going out on a limb. Oh, look at me, I'm gonna bring you this pepperoni pie like I'm a pizza delivery guy. Somehow.
Great analogy. I agree with you there, and your example was great.
How the record continues to go down from here creatively. The bar, some are like bees to flowers. Why? Because some people find me appalling, is actually one of the most appalling bars on this record. Then
Why? That's a good bar. There's nothing wrong with that. The way he says it is clever. I don't know. It's not appalling at all.
And there's the Key skit where Eminem is indulging in all of this goofy ass Muppet singing about like hot chicks and stuff. I think this is easily one of the worst skits to make it onto a hip hop album ever. I mean, it literally makes, and not that it's a hip hop album, but it makes the Beavis and Butthead cuts off of a Speeding Bullet to Heaven sound like comedy gold. Killer is a very...
I agree. I feel like Eminem has some really stupid skits. Some of them have been funny or at least make sense to the album. Like on Kamikaze, he did the Paul calls M and then M calls Paul, but this skit was really stupid. I agree.
Very generic, low-key club banger, surprisingly inoffensive. Meanwhile, the track Zeus is pretty tolerable, features a nice chorus from White Gold. B is okay, and Eminem's voice seems to even out a little bit. He's not quite as obnoxious here. Then Miraculous...
The best compliment Anthony can give him is he's not quite as obnoxious here. Come on, man. That's a great song. And the shots that he took at Snoop Dogg on that are pretty intense. So, I don't know. People love to hate the man.
The closing track, Discombobulated, sounds like Eminem from 20 years ago. When you're talking about the quality of the writing and the vocal delivery and the ease of the flow on this track, it's really some lose yourself, almost like a Eminem show, era Eminem. It's
What? Of all the songs, you're going to say Discombobulated is what? Eminem show era? Dude? No. No. That song is like, I don't want to be mean and just as hateful as Anthony here, but that's one of the dumbest songs on the album. Yes, he comes with a fun lyrical, like you said before, zany, but the man's 50 years old. I feel like he did that because people like you urge him to. But when you actually look at that song face value, it's ridiculous. Again, I'm not trying to hate on the song, but it's just extremely surprising that of all of the songs here, Discombobulated seems like the one you like the most? Really?
It's not quite as urgent or as meaningful as that big anthemic single, but it's at least like kind of funny and seems a little lighthearted and is throwing out some kind of clever jabs here and there. I mean, if Eminem has been capable of pulling a track off like this the entire time, why isn't the rest of the material better? Look, guys,
Bro, most of the material is not only better than you're portraying it, but better than that song specifically. Come on, man.
I don't know. I mean, there were a couple of tracks and moments here that I thought were decent to good. I will say decent to good, but
thank you, I
guess. The vast majority of the material on this LP is either just embarrassing, even by Eminem standards, or just shouldn't have seen the light of day by virtue of being pretty redundant in his overall catalog. He's not really saying anything new or profound or interesting at this point.
I disagree.
He's just giving us another fucking track where
I disagree. I think that he certainly comes with many profound things on almost every project. I think a big thing from Eminem is that he's a student of the game, as we all know. Eminem's a big hip-hop head, bigger than probably most of us. He reflects on that a lot. In his later years, he reflects on the current status of rap, the current status of himself, the perception of himself, from others to himself. He's reflecting. He's putting in his next chapter. I think that it's much more profound than an outsider really realizes.
He's killing a lady. Getting another track of cringy love bars. We're getting another track of, oh, I'm the pariah, nobody likes me, everybody hates me, I'm gonna eat some worms.
That's from Revival. That's funny. I hate that song, actually. I don't like that song. And again, same way I feel about Discombobulated, I feel like you really only made that song to please the people like you who just say, we want old Eminem back. We just want crazy bars.
Which, like, okay, you can do that, but don't record a song about it, because then I'll have to review it, and I just don't want to. So, yeah, this wasn't really great, and in a way kind of disappointing too, because I do feel like the original Music to Be Murdered By was a bit of a bounce back for Eminem. It was certainly better than Kamikaze was, and leagues better than Revival was.
I agree with both of those statements, although I do like Revival, and I certainly loved Kamikaze even more than Revival. I agree that Music to Be Murdered By is just massively better. It's just a huge step forward for the guy, for sure.
was, and it was almost like, hey, he's a little bit on an upward trend here. Let's see how far this goes. But yeah, I think he just kind of gave himself the excuse to drop trash by labeling all of this stuff B-side, deluxe. If people hate it, they won't, like hold it against the original LP if they like it. So, meh. Plus, tagging this on to the original record puts me in a place where I don't need to think of anything new or exciting or different because everyone will view it in the same lens as the rest of this album. Same album cycle, same vibe, same whatever. Feeling a decent 2 strong 3 on this one.
I somewhat agree with what he just said, actually, that it does seem a little lazy to just slap it on like that. Again, he could have just called it a sequel. It could have been Music to Be Murdered by 2, or just side B without the deluxe and take all the original tracks off of it. And, that would have been cool and fine. But I feel like there is a sense of laziness behind not just creating a new album, like entirely new project with a new cover, a new title, not a sequel. So, I agree with your assessment there. But I do not agree with this massive, decent 3 sitting on the screen right now. That's just wild to me. Okay, I believe he gave the original Music to Be Murdered by a 4, if I remember, which is better than the 2 I think he gave Revival. But it's just unbelievable to me, man. Like, I get that he takes this scale seriously, so not everything can be a 10. I probably wouldn't give this project a 10. I definitely don't think I'd give just the side B side alone a 10. But man, it should be up there, like a 5, a 6 at least, like by Anthony's standards here. At least the side A should have been a 5 or a 6. Anthony.
One. Transition. Have you given this album?
Okay. No hate to Anthony Fantano here, guys. I like his reviews. I think he's very knowledgeable and smart and fair for the most part when it comes to his reviews. I just disagree with a lot of his takes, and I just kind of want to do my own thing. So here I am. I am doing album reviews too, so if you clicked on this, go check out my channel. Let me know what you guys think of some of my reviews. Let me know what album or reactions or anything you guys would like to see next on the channel, and don't forget to subscribe.